Good evening, everybody. I welcome you all to the February 4th, 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of Chesapeake Beach, Maryland. The first thing I'd like to do is make the hammer work and have the roll call after we've called everybody to order. Let's go ahead and start down at Commissioner Hahn, and please introduce yourself for the roll call.
Kelly Hahn, present.
Mary Sue Greisman, present.
Karen Ruff.
And I'm Cindy Greengold.
Murray Brown.
Rachel Weaver.
And please note that Commissioner Chris Smith is not with us tonight, so we will still have quorum. And everybody, and Jan Rutke, I'm sorry, Jan did not show up yet. So we will have two missing tonight. We're going to now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now we're on to number 3, which is the approval of the February 4th, 2026 Planning Commission agenda.
the agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And do we have any changes or modifications from anybody? Do I have, let's have a vote then, please. All in favor of approval? I don't hear anybody saying no, so let's go to number 4. Approval of the minutes of December 17th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes for December 17th, 2025.
And a second, please? Any changes? Any questions or changes? No?
Wait a second.
Yes.
We didn't have a, okay, yeah. It was that long ago.
Yes, I know.
Isn't it a
It
January
does seem-
meeting?
It does, that
Yeah.
is before Christmas. I know it is weird. So there are no changes to the minutes. So please, everybody, raise your hand if you approve. Okay, and I don't see anybody saying no. Number 5, any public comments? Do any comments? Come on up to the podium, please, and state your name and address.
My name's Ethan Johnson. I'm over at 3327 Silverton Lane. I'm very unfamiliar with everything over here. I'm newer to the community in Chesapeake Beach.
Mhm.
But I'm trying to do at-home residential workplace.
Mhm.
The only problem with it is it doesn't fall under any of the categories currently listed or anything.
We are working on that currently, so it may fall under at some point in time.
It likely will not because it's very specific.
Okay, and would you want to let us know what that would be?
Yes, ma'am. So it would be a at-home gunsmith.
Oh,
It's an
gunsmith, okay.
FFL is another term for it, federal firearms license.
Mhm.
So it's essentially a gun shop / gunsmith.
Mhm.
In my particular case, I'm trying to do something where it's more customization work, where it's all by appointment. You have to fill out this form online. If you walk up, you will be denied everything. You have to fill out the form online or you will not get any service.
Are you in an HOA, sir?
It is an HOA and I'm still waiting any confirmation from them on if anything can happen there, but I'm trying to figure out all the zoning approval first
Okay,
as well.
okay.
Because they
Well,
have not gotten back to me after 2 emails already to them.
oh,
And a
is
phone
that,
call.
is that right?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry, is that Richfield Station?
No, it's
Bayview.
Bayview Hills.
Bayview, okay, Bayview.
I had a phone call with, I'm trying to remember her name over there.
Tracy.
I'm gonna if I look it up real quick.
Go
So
ahead.
I have it in my phone. I think it's Ellen.
Oh,
yeah.
Ellen, yeah. Yeah.
So I had an email and a phone call with her. She wanted me to email her the rest of the information, send her the information about 2-3 weeks ago. Hadn't heard from her since. So another email earlier this morning, hadn't heard back from her since.
Yes,
Isn't she like, but she's a resident. She doesn't work
I
for
have
the
no
HOA. I
idea.
think she's like a liaison. I'm not sure, but
well, she's not one of the managers. Is she, I think I do, but she's not a manager. She's just probably the HOA president or.
she's the
HOA.
president, but she's definitely
I'm
been.
newer to that area, trying to figure everything else.
Okay.
So I'm not completely positive on any of that.
Sure. Chairman. I ask a
Yes,
question?
yes.
What do your bylaws state? Do you have a copy of your bylaws?
Not provided to me now.
You didn't get any when you moved in? Oh, do you rent?
No, I've just moved in there. We bought the house in August. We've been renovating it since then to fix it up.
Oh.
Finally moved in September and we haven't seen
Yeah.
any of the paperwork.
It's online, so you should.
Where
be
is it at online?
You go, well, since it's, yeah, so you go to the, it's Procom.
Yep,
Is
because
it
I'm
a-
going through the app and I can't find the bylaws.
Well, if you go under documents,
Mhm.
I believe, because I
Have to
was
be there.
looking at them in relation to some of these things that we're going to be discussing.
Mhm.
And so the bylaws are there, and some other things
The
that,
CCNRs and bylaws
Yes,
are usually
it's all there.
always online, and they are required to give that to you when you move in, so I'm surprised that you didn't receive
But
them. But,
normally
You should have
it's-
received
It's supposed to be clearing the sidewalks, but they haven't done that either.
you know,
we pay extra and we don't get what we're
Mhm.
supposed to, yes.
so we are, as I say, going to be doing this for a few months. Then, of course, it goes then to the town council and they do their thing too to it. So it's going to make some changes from here to there probably. But, we will talk about it and discuss what your type of business might,
It's very specific and hard to identify with any other
Right.
category.
it would be considered a service, I
It would be
guess.
considered more of a service
It's more of a
slash
service.
shop
Mm.
than it is
But you'd
just a
also have
salon shop.
retail is part of the business, right?
It would be part of it, but there wouldn't be any inventory on site.
But it'd be online retail. You'd be shipping it out.
It would be more like they give me a list of what they want.
Mhm.
I buy it from the wholesale
Mhm.
and then get it to them. It's not something where it's, hey, you come, you walk in, you see what's on the wall and buy on the wall.
Okay, so you wouldn't have any impact from people coming in and stopping and.
No, the only impact that would happen is if it's someone coming in, they see something that I'm currently working on. But that would be something where it's like, hey, they have a more specific need of, they want, say, a hunting shotgun and they want something engraved on it specific.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought this to our attention and, that probably will be part of our discussion at some point here. So thank you. I mean, yes, did you have one more comment,
One more.
please?
Have you done this before in a residence elsewhere before you moved here?
I have not.
Okay.
This is something brand new to me. I'm actually going through classes for it for an associate's degree in this, which only one college provides it and it's out in Arizona and you have to do it all online. Calvert Fire Rescue is paying for everything for it right now through the tuition assistance program. And the gentleman over at Gunbox, Chucky Yacht, he's helping out with me trying to learn the ins and outs of certain things. Another gentleman that works in Prince George's County with myself, he's been helping around with it as well. I do know of one that's in the county, but it's not in Chesapeake Beach that does it from their home, but they do it as a full shop, like everything's on the wall.
Right.
And that's
right.
SNS in Huntingtown.
Oh, is that SNS? Okay.
Yes.
Excuse me.
So
Alrighty.
it'd be a little different than SNS. It'd be more like, there's a gentleman further down in Prince Frederick. He does restorations, repairs, true gunsmithing, similar to what I'm requesting to do. But he only has it where it's appointment only. They have to fill out a form, everything.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing this to our attention, Ethan. I appreciate you doing that.
Mhm.
Be safe going out you have
Can
one
I
more?
ask a question
yes.
that is to you all, but I think would be helpful for
Okay,
him as well?
yes,
Because
uh-huh.
I'm just procedurally, how does the impact between HOA and our zoning laws work?
Let's
Those are
ask
those
our,
needs.
okay, or maybe we could
Yeah.
ask either one of you, how do we want, do you want to go ahead and answer the question? Yeah, we've got her here.
So the town has no control over the HOA operations, right? The HOA is separate and apart, and we do not enforce their covenants. We do not enforce any of their restrictions. So they deal with their covenants and restrictions. The town is going to trump, if you will, whatever their, so if they let a use occur and the town does not allow that use in that zone, then it can't happen. So they're two separate.
So both things, we
distinct-
would have to change ours and then the
Separate.
HOA would have to go through the process
approve it,
of
right?
changing their bylaws.
If they so
Great.
chose.
Yeah, because it's
So-
pretty, that can be really difficult.
And I would imagine, if I'm right, that if an HOA doesn't allow something that the town allows, the HOA trumps.
Yes.
Because those are your enacting documents when you
Yes.
purchased your home.
Yeah.
It would be something similar to where the state says you can do one thing, but the county says you can't. You have to go by the county at that point.
Right,
So-
okay.
I'm in Richfield Station.
Mhm.
And depending on what, this is why I just asked, what do your bylaws state? Because you want to get familiar with that, because if they don't allow
Yeah.
it, then all the other work you're doing wouldn't matter. For us in Richfield Station, we have to, I believe, have 80%. In order to change the bylaws, we'd have to have 80% of the residents sign off on something to have the bylaws changed to allow something. So that's one of the
Yeah,
reasons why I was
daunting.
asking what they say.
All right, well, I thank you. We need to move on. Unfortunately, we've got a busy schedule tonight, but thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Welcome, by the way.
Yes. Congratulations for moving in to a very forgiving town. Okay, and now, as you notice here, we've got Karen Ruff, and she's from, is it Levon or Levin?
Levan.
Levan and Ruff, and she is here to help us go through some things tonight. So the first thing we're going to do is go to a closed session, but I do need a motion to go ahead and close this open session and go into closed session. So do I have a motion to close the regular meeting and go into closed session? Yes, Commissioner Greisman.
Yes, I will make a motion that right now we close the open meeting as we need to go into closed session.
Okay, and do we have any discussion
Megan?
about this? Yes.
Oh,
Okay, well, you'll find that out when we go into closed session.
I do just want to finish
Yes.
that, and this would be pursuant to statutory authority under the Maryland Annotated Code pursuant to general provisions, Section 305, little b, subsection 7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice regarding pending matters.
That's why. Okay, any questions besides the why? And I think we're going to answer the why in a second. But let's go ahead and all in favor of closing the open session and opening.
We have a
the closed session.
second?
We had a second. I
We
think we
did?
had do we have a second? We have a second right here.
Okay.
And all in favor of doing so?
Aye.
Raise your hand. Okay, and I see nobody opposed to it. So do we want to go into the other room to have our closed session, or how do you want to do this?
Fine. And I would just make it clear for those that are here, we will be coming back.
Yes, we will be
into
coming
open
back.
session
Yes, we will
shortly.
be.
Okay. How much of our,
You don't need any.
perfect. I will take my coffee, however, I'm not a fool. Well, I mean, I am, but. So I mainly do bankruptcies, that's what I love.
Touch up.
Well. Consumer, not anything. But chapter 11's Oh, no. I don't know. Wheelchair.
To what? She's right there.
It's unmuting.
Oh,
This is like,
yeah, it's a comedy routine tonight.
well, if you're involved and I'm involved.
and that's why. Oh. Do we have, oh, so we'll continue with the audio. Okay, well, thank you for being patient. I'm going to I would like to have a motion here to open the session after a closed session just a few minutes ago. So do I have a motion to open up the meeting tonight? Yes.
I would make a motion to reopen the meeting as we have finished with our closed session.
Do I have a second, please?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any discussion? Thank you. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about our fencing ordinance or amendment to section 29019, I should say. Could we have a report, please, from our planner, Ms. Franklin?
Sure. So we discussed some changes to section 29019 at our last meeting, resulting from the fact that currently fences are only dealt with in the building code, which really doesn't provide as much flexibility as the zoning code does. And so we are adding fencing regulations to the zoning code, which will allow people to go to Board of Appeals if they have a unique situation. And so at the last meeting, there were a couple of questions asked about why it was 48 inches, 42 inches, and why some of the language was the way it was. And at that time, we were matching the building ordinance because we didn't know if it was going to be repealed or not. I have been advised that the town council intends to repeal it, so we could go ahead and use the 48 inches, 4 feet that you guys had wanted to use and change some of the other language. So I made some changes based on that information. And then I also have an initial draft related to wind load and construction, but that is still with the engineer to finalize. I think that still allows us to approve it to move forward this evening and just let the council make any adjustments that the engineer recommends.
Any questions of staff, please? Yes.
Is what was placed on the, I guess this is the same thing as what I printed out from my computer.
Draft 120. No,
Nothing's changed in this from,
no,
okay.
this is.
Yeah, I forgot. I printed it out. Okay.
Okay.
No questions.
Does anybody else have any questions regarding this, this amendment? I have one question, maybe a couple questions, actually. Where it says fences or walls that are less than 4 feet above the natural grade or to garden walls, does it make sense, or to garden walls, or should it be or garden walls, steps, or other similar features not more than 3 feet higher than the floor level? Do we want the word to in there, T.O.?
No, we can delete that.
Another question?
We were going to talk about street level as opposed to.
Oh, yes, go ahead and ask that question.
So this could be part of my, I'm not great at seeing things dimensionally and visually, but when it says that above the natural grade, that's kind of, I don't know how that's determined. If someone has built up an area and then placed their foundation on top of that, I don't know how you ascertain the natural grade. And would it be easier to say from the street level, which is kind of obvious?
Yeah, in this case, the natural grade is intending to mean just wherever it's placed on the lot. So if you say street level and you go up, now you really can't build anything because you're 3 feet above street level instead of 3 feet above the grade of your property. we
Because most of
can,
us build above street because we want the water to.
Well,
we can change the word natural to finished so that
I
it's
think
whatever
that
it
might be
is.
more
Yeah.
precise, actually,
Yeah.
because the properties across from me actually were infilled up so that there's a natural grade and then they had a pad placed on top so they could go up higher. So the natural grade is actually below where their front door, where they would put a fence, I
Right.
guess you might say. So maybe you want to make it, what did you just say? Make it
Finished.
finished. Finished grade as opposed to natural grade. All righty.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
So for finished grade versus natural grade, in Richfield Station, when the developer was developing it, they brought in a lot of backfill and built the houses on the backfill to bring it up to street level. And there's going to be more construction in there. So when they are backfilling it or things like that, all of that is pre-approved by the town prior to actually that happening. So we'll have an idea of how much higher, like depending on how they build it and backfill it, how big the fences are.
All of that is in the building permit.
Okay.
And one last question on page 2, on B2, on the very bottom, where it says it was erected prior to the adoption of requirements for building permits for fences in the town. Did we want to put the date of when the town council actually approves this, or what are you referring to actually?
I'm actually referring to the building code, right? So I don't know when the building code, what the fences portion of the building code was adopted. But if there was a fence that was erected before that, realistically, probably it should be replaced, right?
Oh, yeah, it's
Um,
that long. Yeah, absolutely.
so-
Okay.
But the
Why don't we
point,
pick a date
sure,
Yeah, that's what I was.
prior to X date?
okay.
Well, I was thinking, see, we've already done that up at, let me see here in
7A.
7A, and we thought maybe we should be consistent and adopt a date. And it probably would be, or should we just put in there, let's see here, date of enactment or something like that? Is that how you want to change that, or does it?
I was confused because it didn't mention the building. Now I understand it's the building code, but I don't know if you want to reference that.
What I'm going to suggest is that we say it was erected prior to, and then sort of insert date, and
Okay.
let the town attorney determine a good date for that.
Mhm.
As I read it now, I think it'll be best if we just insert it.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
And
too.
then everybody knows what that date.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay. All right. So does anybody have any other questions or comments, actually? I think we've made a few changes here. The one change of deleting the word "to" in front of garden walls. We're taking out natural and putting in finished instead of natural on 1B. And then we're going to put in prior to, and then insert date on 7B2. Page 2. And I think that is probably all that we are looking at changing at this point. Okay, is everybody happy with the way it's turned out?
Yes.
Nobody is concerned about having chain link fences in the front yards like I am?
Well,
I mean, I am still concerned about that, but I might, let me just make one motion. I would like to move that we don't allow chain link in the front yard, but we allow it in the backyard. Do I have a second for that?
What about what about side yards?
And the side yard, and well, the chain link can be on the side yards too.
But if you're on the corner property, like
Right.
right here going up 260, their front is facing the road and they already have chain link
Well,
fence.
well, I mean, you're grandfathering those people all in. I mean, there's going to be a grandfather clause for all that. I'm just saying any new properties or any new yards being fenced would not be able to use chain link in the front yard only. Or maybe if it's on the corner, it'd have to be the side because that'd also be the front, I guess, but. Oh, and the other thing we were talking about was the double fencing. Did you want to talk about double fencing? Oh, let's finish the motion though, because we're still in the motion. We're still in the motion. I'm so sorry. It just came to mind that we had that one other item. Okay, so I don't hear a second for my motion, so the motion dies. So let's go ahead to Ms. Franklin. Did we want to talk about the double fencing?
You did mention that. So, I mean, we can draft language to prohibit, like if your neighbor has a fence already, you adding a fence next to it. But yeah, we can do it, right? I'm not
Help me
getting,
understand what, I'm not
I've
understanding.
got you've got a fence, I build a fence. You're saying I don't build a fence because there's already one there.
Right, you don't double fence a yard. When the
Yeah.
fence is there, you don't put another fence right next to it.
But you have a problem, and I'm going to use my house as an example. He didn't put his fence on the property line. He did his fence 2 feet in, and then I did my fence on my property line. So then you had feet, because if I
Oh.
didn't put my fence up and I used his fence, then I was then taking over his yard.
Right, trespassing.
I'm not sure that'd be called double fencing. That would be, that probably wouldn't be considered the same thing, but
so
I
I
don't
think you have the additional problem of, like, say someone has a 4-foot chain link
mhm.
fence and you are trying to fence in a dog or add a privacy fence that is 6 feet. So while I think it could be done, I think the question is, do you want to, how do you want to handle these situations where if you want to put yours inside your fence line, can you? And then there's still 2 fences and you've got to come around and mow it.
And then you also have the aesthetics. So if your next door neighbor has a fence that's picket and it's only 3 feet high because they have a little dog, and then you have a dog that can jump over that fence really easy, and you're putting up a 6-foot fence, like then you're liable now because your dog, if you can't double fence it, your dog's going to jump over their fence and be able to escape.
Okay, all right. I think we have the cause for not having a double fence clause. So let's go ahead. Yes, anything more?
Just on the chain link fences, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I'm also sensitive to the cost, but I would make a motion that we not permit chain link fences in the front facing only. Because I think
Front
that
yard only?
the front yard, because I think that aesthetically, to me, chain link fences create a different type of ambiance, feng shui, if you will, than non-chain link fences. So,
Okay, I'll second that. Any questions or issues about the motion being no chain link fences in the front yard? But chain link is allowed in the back and on the sides, is what you're saying.
and then I don't know what you do about the sides, like where, you've got 2 fronts because it's on a corner.
Mhm, mhm.
And I don't know how you handle that because maybe you just count one of them as the front. I don't know, but I think maybe then they both have to be non-chain link to be consistent.
Yeah, it would have to be. Mhm.
Yeah.
Front yards, exactly. Okay, so I second it. Any discussion or any questions? Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
I mean, I just want to point out, we definitely had this conversation at length in December
Mhm.
and we voted on it in December. And I feel like maybe we just move quickly into a vote because it doesn't feel like the best use of our
Just
time
keep voting on it.
on it
Get
over
the
and over again
desired
till,
result.
yeah.
Okay, so let's all vote and we'll just eliminate this entirely. And
Okay.
all in favor and aye?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, so it fails. And we will move on to, we now need a motion to approve this with all the additions and changes. So who would like to make the motion to approve the proposed amendment to section 290-19? Somebody like to make that motion?
Make a motion to approve. Section 290 dash.
Okay, a second. I will second that. Any questions or comment? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, I don't see any opposition. Let's move on. Now we're going to go to the discussion of the land use table, zoning map, and conditional uses. Ms. Franklin?
Yeah, so, background, we started discussing the land use table and issues arising from some changes that were made in RV1 that brought things out of alignment with the comprehensive plan and some concerns I had regarding the RPC overlay. While we had started that discussion, the town council directed the planning commission to review the entire land use table, including the conditions and standards. And so we have until the end of April to send them a draft of the revisions. What I've done here for this draft that you're looking at now is I've kind of combined two ways of doing conditions and uses for zoning ordinances, which is what you have now, which is a land use table, and an ordinance that doesn't have a land use table, but has all the text that explains what can happen in each district for each use. The land use table makes it very easy, typically, for people to look and find what they want to do and determine if it's allowable. But one of the concerns that the town council had about our land use table is that it's become extremely long and hard to read and hard to find what you're looking for. So I have streamlined the land use table to have more generalized uses. And then instead of section 290.11 simply having the conditions and standards for conditional and special exception uses, it now has the conditions and the standards conditions for all uses that are listed in the table. So for example, there's now a category called office, and it has all types of office uses would be underneath it. And that way, when you're looking at the land use table, it's easier to find what you're looking for. And you also have that reference to get more detail to the question. So that's just what you're looking at. This evening, though, we do have the benefit of legal advice, excellent legal advice. And I would like us to sort of focus our discussion on what we started talking about, which is RV1 and RV2, that RPC overlay, and kind of talking a little about the zoning map and some changes that we may need to make to that in conjunction with the text, the amendments that we're looking at. So with regard to the zoning map, you all have a large format map in front of you that shows it's our current zoning map, and then I have filled in the old zoning map over that. So you're looking at that where there's color, that color is the old zoning. And you're going to try and follow the blue outlines to get the text that is written in print, like it's written from a computer. That's your new zoning. And the key to the old zoning is all the way over on the right to the page. So this helps you kind of see what zoning changes were made with the comprehensive plan update. And you can see how some of the areas that we were talking about with regard to RV1 and RV2 seem to have gotten a little sort of specific and confused. And so I also wanted to kind of get into a little bit what spot zoning is and how we can avoid that. So I think it starts with your questions.
Well, looking at the map, what specifically are you wanting us to address tonight? Now, I know if you start at the north and look at the RV1, you have RV1 in it looks like you have an orange and then you have it in brown
So
or tan or whatever that color is.
So just to kind of take you through the colors, the brownish, tannish is what used to be your RV zone. So anything that looks that color used to just be RV and was not split up into RV1 and RV2. The orange is actually used to be residential medium density, RMD. The red, it used to be residential high density. Your pink was your commercial areas. Yellow, low density residential. Blue is marine. Green is resource conservation. And that gray area that I did not color in is the residential planned community, which is what it was actually zoned at the previous map as well. So it is a little hard to see in the more detailed areas, and you'll see that I wrote some stuff in pencil there. But that just helps you see the changes that were made. So in that northern end of town, residential medium density got changed into residential village, right? And across the street, an area that had been zoned for commercial got converted to residential village as well. And then RV, so your medium density, that little orange area, for some reason got scooped into the RV1 instead of, hold on, let me see. Yeah, it got scooped into the RV1, which makes like a little box around that RV2 zone, which seems a little unusual. Do you see what I'm talking about?
The little pink, elongated pink.
Well, so there's the
rectangular,
yeah,
between the RV1 and the RV1 brown and the RV1 orange or whatever. I mean, those two different colors of RV1.
right. So that got changed to RV1, but I'm talking more right along the shoreline. There's RV1 at the top, and it is also colored in orange. But if you look underneath it, like there's just been an unusual sort of separation of an RV2 area out, like kind of cut out from RV. What is RV1 almost everywhere else except for that one little parcel that's zoned RC.
You refresh my memory. What's the difference between RV1 and RV2?
Yes. So RV1 and RV2, the intention of RV1 is to be a lower density residential village. And then RV2 is meant to include more intense residential uses. It doesn't specifically say that you can't include commercial uses, but that wasn't the intent, or that wasn't what you initially did when you did your comprehensive rezoning. However, the owners of Horizons came to the council after this map was amended and requested a zoning text amendment to allow certain commercial uses as conditional uses in the RV1. And that request was granted. So now we have an RV1 that allows certain conditional uses that are more intense than the RV2, which is not, like the RV1 was always supposed to be less intense than the RV2. Are you following?
Are you proposing changes to the zoning map?
I am proposing that we should likely make some changes to the zoning map. There are some areas that are very specifically zoned. And I'm not certain I'm clear why those changes were made. I'm not proposing the specific zoning map changes tonight. I'm just allowing you to see the changes that happened. So you can see why I'm a little concerned or confused about some of the changes that happened and think that we really should take a look at the map as well as the text.
What's the legal definition of spot zoning?
Oh, this is why we have our attorney sitting next to me here. There we go. You're up.
So spot zoning occurs when a small area in a district is placed in a different zoning classification than the surrounding property. Now, its validity depends on the facts of each case, and it can be valid exercise of police power where the zoning is in harmony with a comprehensive plan and bears a substantial relationship to the public health, safety, and welfare. That's kind of the summary of what the case law says as the definition. Is that sufficient, or do you want some more?
So if you have small zones within larger places that have specific zoning, case law would say that can happen, but you just have to be able to have a really good reason.
Well, it can happen if the two things are met, right? One is it's in harmony with the comprehensive plan and bears a substantial relationship to the public health, safety, and welfare. What they're trying to say is you can't go in and zone Harry's property a certain thing because Harry has asked for it and you like him, right?
Yeah.
So, because that's a personal benefit to him.
Yeah, we don't like Harry.
It's not, there's no public safety, health, safety, welfare issue there. So one of the other cases talks about how spot zoning is when zoning ordinance or an amendment puts a small area in a zone different from the surrounding area. If it's arbitrary and unreasonable designation of the area to use to a use inconsistent with the uses to which the district is restricted and made for the sole benefit of the private interests of the owner, then it's invalid. So on one hand, you have comprehensive plan, substantial relationship with the public health, safety, and welfare. On the other hand, you have, is it a sole benefit to a private interest of a particular owner? That you can't do.
If we go with Horizons on the Bay, when it was initially platted and everything else, it was correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Planner, it was allowed and it was in there that they would have businesses on the whole bottom floor. And when they did the comprehensive plan, they didn't include that, which is part of the reasons why they came back to us, if I recall correctly, because we didn't allocate that. Is that right?
Well, so I don't know the details of them coming back, right? But it is true that the building was developed as a mixed-use building with commercial businesses on the bottom floor.
Because the lady came and she wanted to put a nail salon in there and we couldn't do it because of the way the regulations were done.
And so that's never been fixed?
No.
And if you can correct me if this is it not, it's possible that it could have been done with a grandfathering clause instead of an update. Do you concur? Is that not possible?
It's possible.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
wasn't
I'm
done
not
with a
aware of what
grandfathering. My-
occurred
Right. Yeah.
then either. We'd have to do a little research into that to figure out how that occurred, to know how to properly answer your question.
So there are legal ramifications if you spot zone and you don't have good cause other than the fact that Joe Blow is my friend. I mean, you could get into all kinds of legal issues that way. So obviously spot zoning is not something we want to do. But I think the point is that it looks like that's what we've done with some of these areas. Is that what you're saying, Ms. Franklin? Is that it looks like a spot zoning situation? Is that like
She doesn't want to say that.
I mean, I'm just asking, why are we, if we're not worried about a legal situation down the road as far as being something valid, we obviously don't want to cut off some of these little zones and make them look like a spot zoning situation.
So
Um,
if I
right?
might interrupt you
Sure.
briefly, So not knowing how it occurred and the rationale behind it, I would like to assume or presume, for the sake of our discussion at least, that it was done because it bore a substantial relationship to the public health, safety, and welfare, right?
Yeah.
Until we do that research to understand why or how, I wouldn't necessarily call them spot zoning, because as we said, it can be valid. And I wouldn't assume it's not, right?
Well, I wasn't
So I
referring to
would
that
just-
horizons on the bay. I was referring to our actual map. And I was really asking if you thought that we had done some spot zoning generally, other than the horizons on the, that particular situation. If you look at this map, am I looking at a spot zoning situation as being a small area, like where we've got the TC in pink? Would that be such a small zone to be considered spot zoning, or no?
So I think that what Attorney Ruff just said, right? Correct. Is that some of the areas, as you zoned them, do have that substantial connection to the health, safety, and welfare. Others, it's unclear if they. It's unclear to me why they're zoned how they are. That doesn't mean that they didn't. Just means it's not obvious to me, and research has to be done if the zoning is going to be maintained on that property.
So what you're saying we have to really do is change the map before we actually allocate, or, well, I guess we can still go ahead and do the uses, but we want to know where these uses are going to be going into, what areas are we going into before we actually, so we really do want to understand this map a little better, don't we?
Yes. I would say, sorry.
Yes.
I'm
please.
sorry to keep interrupting.
Please do.
So whenever a jurisdiction with zoning authority goes through this exercise,
Mhm.
and they're doing a review of their zoning and land use policies and what uses are going to be acceptable and where they're going to be acceptable, you're necessarily going to be looking at that zoning map, right? Because as you go through the text and you make changes perhaps to the uses you're going to allow in different zones, it then may make sense to alter the zone on the map, right? But you don't know that until you go through and identify the uses you want in those zones. And then you can go through and you can go, okay, so here's an RV1. Does it still make sense for it to be RV1? Or if that makes
Okay,
more
so
sense,
go ahead and
but-
do the uses and then come back and do the zoning map to re-identify where we want those uses to go into.
That's what I would
Whereas-
say, unless Ms. Franklin has a different.
No, I think you're right, but also I think as we're doing this, we should be looking at both, not one and then the other necessarily, because it will sort of, just in my experience working with you guys on this with the RV1 and the RV2 so far, a lot of the discussion has been like, well, what areas are we talking about? So I think especially with RV1 and RV2, sort of looking at how it was, how it is, and evaluating along with the uses, because that's really the location and the uses are tied together very closely for these two, that we should have both of those out at the same time. I think for other districts, then it's fine to do the map second.
So the RV1 and RV2, they used to be all one residential village
Mhm.
zone. And I know that a few years ago, Mr. Kubiak and the group decided, well, let's divide them up, because when you looked at RV2, the thought was, as far as what I remember, that the lots were a little bit bigger, the streets were a little bit wider, there was a little more parking, there was a little bit more of historical use of businesses in the homes, that kind of thing. So I think there was some history there. And I think so the but the RV1, which is along the coast, as you can see, particularly in the north. In fact, it's all in, north of 260, Route 260 is the RV1. And then you have a little bit actually right around 26th Street, you have a little RV1, and right around 260, you have a little RV1 there too. So the RV1 was supposed to be, as you say, less intense, almost all residential. And as I recall, they talked about, of course, then I look at the RV2 down the road, and I think they were thinking that they were going to develop that into more business, maybe more mixed use type situations as you go down Chesapeake Beach Road to the west. So as I recall, and if, maybe Commissioner Brown might have another view of RV1, RV2, but I look at it as more residential for RV1 and more of the home business, home office type situation in RV2. I don't know, what did you think about all this? Or do you have any memory of this?
Yeah, me, they're the same. And you look at what you've got here in RV1, you've got townhouses. The lots in RV1, I don't know what. They're very small. And the lots in RV2 are also, to me, they're all the same. I mean, it's the same type of people living in both areas.
Mhm.
But that's history. I lost that battle when we were arguing it.
We lost a couple battles when we were arguing this.
You weren't discussing it?
And so your comprehensive plan calls for there to be an RV1 and an RV2. And so to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, we need to have an RV1 and an RV2. But I do think where is that line is a question that should be asked. Like why in the north is there a little RV2 carve out in the middle of the RV1? And is this really like what makes the RV1 and the RV2 different? And on the ground, what do we want to see different? Specifically, so there's an RV2 area that's, from the intersection of 260 and 261 to the northwest, right? And that has smaller lots and smaller streets, and it's RV2. And you're basically allowing more dense housing in that area. And why in this area, but not why is it okay in this area if the streets are still narrow and the lots are still small?
I can't answer the questions. But since you say now that in the comprehensive plan, we have the RV1 and 2, two separate zones, we can't change that. Is that what you're saying at this point?
You do need to have two separate zones, one that is less intense and one that is more.
We have to have the two. So would you identify
amended the
two different
comprehensive
areas, one more intense than the other? Would you be able to do that on, with the RV1, RV2?
So we can do that. I just think we have to identify. We have to identify what the 20-year goal is, right? Like what was it? The redevelopment of that area that was being visualized. So that's sort of the question. The other
I think,
option,
that might have been it. I don't know. Yeah, that could be part of it.
the other option, of course, is that we can amend the comprehensive plan. That is a bigger project than we've been given, but that doesn't mean we can't put it on the agenda. But I think it is a question of what's the difference, and I think we've been having that conversation with regard to allowing commercial uses in the RV1 and RV2. What is the difference between these two zones? And I think establishing that may be
Well,
for the
if,
map.
okay, I guess my question is, if indeed it's allowed in the RV2 eventually, to have, home occupation situations where there's a non-homeowner, at the helm, and you have customers coming to this, to the home office, let's just
Mhm.
say that, that level of home office. That would be your major home office, I guess would be called. Would that type of use be, amenable in like where you live, Commissioner Brown, in that RV1 area? You know, would your area, which is RV1, right? Yours is RV1. Would you be able to have customers coming to the homes in that area and stopping and parking, and that kind of thing? Would that be amenable to that kind of intense use?
Sure. Sure. I mean, the difference in density is it really shows up on the map. On Cox Road, certainly a lot less dense than down by the water or
Mhm.
in the area between NC and TC.
And I think with the RV2 in Cox Road, it was, we would like to see as this area redevelops that it would become more dense because it isn't currently dense.
You're talking about the RV2 up on Cox Road, you would want to see
Right.
more dense?
No,
I think that's the decision you made. No, it's, I don't know. I don't necessarily know because I wasn't here.
You'd have to ask one of the town council members who were on the commission and argued
Promoted it.
all over the thing.
Offered.
You know, I am amenable to changing the comprehensive plan if need be too. If everybody here thinks that the RV 1 and 2 is just an exercise in confusion, because I think that's not a good way to plan either. So if you think that in the RV 1 where you are, it would be the same, it would be the same intensity as the RV 2 up, let's just say across from Baya in that area. You know, I don't know. I mean, there were definitely some strong arguments for changing this, I know at one time, and I can't recall what the reasons were exactly at this point. But I know our planner went along with it, so he, you know, obviously he didn't think it was too onerous at the time.
Yeah, it's coastline. I mean, there's fragile, there's, when you're by the shoreline, I think you,
But it feels arbitrary. We have RV1 in orange on the shoreline and then RV2
Right.
also on the shoreline. That's where
okay.
like that change in designation there is what makes the whole thing feel a little like, huh?
So-
Because you know what I mean? Just that same street where it is crowded and then it doesn't get less crowded, but the designations
Designations don't reflect the reality.
Yeah, in my opinion.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Would it be possible to ask Ms. Franklin to take the zoning map, look at the zoning map, and you as a planner determine what you think it should be? Then potentially have you look at the RC where it projects out 20 years and code it that way, and then we compare them.
We could certainly do that if that's,
I don't know.
I mean,
that's
if you
the
want to
heavy
make
lift.
changes though, we then do have to look at redoing the comprehensive plan or, you know, amending the comprehensive plan.
I think part of it, we are a little in like a chicken and egg, right?
Yeah.
We have options, but part of it sort of does hinge on this conversation that we keep having about home occupations.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
the intensity of the home occupation in an RV1 versus an RV2. And I think if we can identify, do we want to allow a more intense home occupation, which I have now classified as a major home occupation, versus a minor home occupation? in an RV2 and not allow it in other residential areas. And so I think that's sort of the question. Or would you allow a major home occupation in any RV area?
But isn't it an interpretation, and everybody could potentially have a different interpretation of RV1 and RV2? Like in the sense of major intents, okay? So for me, if it's a single house sitting on, say, a third of an acre, half an acre, but that single house has a family of 6 living in it, is that going to be classified as one way versus having that same third of an acre and you now have townhomes and you have 4 townhomes on it and it has 20 people living in it? So how, like, where are we going to draw the line on that?
And that's also going to change, could change sales.
Well, and if you look at the RV1 area, right as you turn onto Chesapeake Beach Road, those little cottages that actually don't have any parking except for maybe 1 or 2, spots in the back. They're very limited in their parking. I think that was some of the idea too, maybe, is that to intensify use would require more need of parking, and they were very limited. And I think if I remember what the conversation was, that was part of it. So you couldn't have the intense home office use if in those areas in particular, just because of the inability for people to drive back in there. And, you have a little alley, you have no parking, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that was some of the thought. But could RV1 in that section remain and, some of the others of the RV1 change into RV2? I don't know. I mean, if Commissioner Brown is saying that in his section, which is over there by the North Coastal area up there, and he thinks that they could handle more intense business use, then maybe that should be RV2 and spread RV2 over that way and leave RV1 over where there's very little parking, very little ability to drive through, and there's little tiny alleyways. Maybe we need to look at it like that, like accessibility.
Or you make it conditional.
We can make it a special exception use. Yeah, there's more than one way to address it. And I think we're talking about we're layering 2 things. What is there right now? And what do we think should be there? And, the comprehensive plan is what do we think should be there? And then we change the zoning to match that so that it shapes and adjusts based on that. And so I think hearing, well, RV1 along the shore reduces the intensity. Well, then maybe we should look at RV1 along all of the shore, and maybe those are areas that you don't have a major home occupation, and all the RV that isn't adjacent to the shore becomes the RV2 and would allow a home occupation or a major home occupation, but also would allow conversion to townhomes, and multifamily dwellings over time.
Basing this on parking.
No, I'm not basing it on parking. Oh, you can probably base the major versus minor home occupation decision on parking and street width, right? Because it's whether you have customers coming or not. It differentiates those 2.
Why would you restrict?
Because I heard someone say we want, a less intense use along the water because it's a sensitive area. And so that's why I threw that idea out there. But I think if that's the argument, you have high density and medium density along the water too. So we would want to make it consistent if that's the goal. So it's partly what exists now, partly what would we allow to exist in this space.
So I'm looking at our packet, the memorandum,
Mhm.
and they say for residential 1, and this is page 5925. It has general land use categories and it says residential village 1. The purpose is conserve traditional cottage neighborhood character, and a primary example is a single-family detached house. Residential village 2, conserve traditional cottage neighborhood, single-family detached with allowance for other housing types compatible with the neighborhood character. The high density is a single-family attached with multiple family buildings.
That's in the comprehensive plan on page 59.
Okay, so where do you want to go from here? Do you want us to direct you to go ahead and make modifications or changes on this and then bring it back next month, or how do you want to do this map? You can tell that we're a little bit, we don't really know. The residential village I know was historically historically the RV1 and RV2 were all RVs, was just all one RV, right? So that is what that used to be. I think everything else used to be somewhat the same, right? Their RMD, RHD was always the same. I mean, that was residential, high density, medium density, low density, et cetera. That was pretty much the same. Of course, you don't know because you weren't here.
They changed Richfield Station.
Well,
Mr. Juby, he changed it because there was a couple of us that didn't want it changed.
what was it changed from?
I'm looking at my notes and I can't find them.
And what was it? Okay, well, that's interesting.
So a portion of Richfield Station had been zoned RMD, that orange spot in the middle.
Yeah.
That's mostly that's Baby Hills, right? No, that's Heritage. Okay, so that section that's orange was removed. Before we leave the RV zone
Okay,
and
let's
move
go
on
back
to the
to the RV,
RPC
yes.
overlay,
Uh-huh.
which that is bringing up.
Mhm.
I think what I would like direction from the Planning Commission on is what approach you would like to take. Would you like to maintain the differentiations between the RV1 and the RV2 zones and try to identify what are defining factors to determine what those areas are so that I can update the map based on that? Or if you would like to look at amending the comprehensive plan to consolidate everything back into just one RV zone.
Okay, what would be everybody's pleasure? Yes,
I mean,
Commissioner.
I
yes, Commissioner.
feel like my strong preference at this point would be to amend the comprehensive plan, make a single RV, because it feels easier. I mean, maybe not easy, but it feels like easier for other people to understand. And it feels like the differentiations between what we want to do in one and the other feel like we get into like a little bit more dangerous territory. Personally, that would be my preference moving
Okay.
forward.
Okay, Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, I would, I'm not sure what we're doing. Are we dealing with this? Are we amending this? Or are we back to the original? I mean, we've got balls in the air and I don't know which one to deal with.
Right. So
It's like a-
there are a lot of balls in the air, and the question is, because there's a problem, right? And the question is, how do we solve this problem of these three balls that need to be coordinated with each other? And that have become uncoordinated.
Mhm.
And so there's multiple ways to address the issue. But
The
if
last time we dealt with this,
Mhm.
we had public input,
Yes, right.
and it's going to arise public input.
It,
If you're dealing with changing this. Now, changing this doesn't matter because it doesn't mean anything until you change this.
It's a chicken and egg
I
situation.
agree that RV1 and RV2 are basically the same, except for along Cox Road. But
Mhm.
there's this pink section up here along Route 261 that, that's new.
So that's
That's the,
that's the
uh,
old zoning on top of the new zoning map.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I'm just kind of trying to show you what it was and what you changed it to, just for reference.
well, that's the commercial
What it
zone.
was doesn't matter anymore. We aren't
Right.
going back to that. We're going forward. So,
Well, you wouldn't be, okay, we don't need to be changing the commercial zones, right? We're just talking about the RV1 and RV2 at this point.
I'm not suggesting that we go back to the old zoning. I'm just suggesting that it can kind of inform our discussion.
Well, let me
So-
ask you this, if we didn't change anything, how would that be a problem? If we didn't change anything and just go ahead and deal with the uses and deal with them as this map reads right now?
What is the most efficient use of our time to make it that it all collectively works together?
Okay. So I think I kind of would like you all to sort of make a decision as to what method you want to take. Updating the comprehensive plan or coming up with a basically decision matrix of what constitutes RV1, what constitutes RV2, and splitting them up based on some objective and clear defining features, so that we have this basis for why each one, and then that way I can go back and update the map based on that information.
Okay, so you're saying that what is written in the comprehensive plan is not definite and precise enough to give us enough feedback to make further plans. Is that what you're saying?
It's not that, it's how what's written in the comprehensive plan is applied to the map, right? So I heard someone say, well, RV1 should be on the shoreline because it's less intense. Well, if that is the decision factor, then we should change the map to reflect that. But if the decision factor is based on the existing street layout or proximity to 261, then we should update the map to reflect that consistently. There's basically not a consistent
Mhm.
defining factor that is helpful to identify what constitutes RV1 versus what constitutes RV2 when looking at this map.
Okay, so when you did your the land uses in this new chart,
Mhm.
you did the major and minor home occupations.
Right. I took what we did last time and
Right.
instead of putting it under one use, I split it into two different
Right.
uses.
So I guess the question is it, if we took the major home occupation, which I think you would indicated to be an RV2, right? It was an RV2.
My
think-
land use classifications, I didn't carry those over properly.
Oh, okay, so that
I
wasn't
just
something.
carried
Okay,
them
all right,
over. I
'cause it said
didn't-
RV2, I wasn't sure. So you didn't then suggest that RV2 be the major home occupation or allow for the major home occupation versus the RV1?
I carried over what we did. I
Okay,
didn't put
Okay,
my recommendation.
okay. Because I was assuming that you assumed that RV2 was, the area was more applicable to that kind of intense use than the others. But, I am happy if you guys want to, as a group, go ahead and amend the comprehensive plan and just make it an RV district. I'm perfectly happy to go that route too, if that's what should we go ahead and make a motion to do that? Or what would everybody like to do here? Because we're not going very quickly here.
We open up the comprehensive plan and make a motion on it. Don't we have to put it back before the public for them to?
Yes, we have to go through the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Yes, we
But
do.
if we change this, don't we also have
Well,
to
we
have?
still have to have a public hearing if we're going to make some changes like that. We still have to have a public hearing, but I think the comprehensive plan is going to open up
More worms?
a bigger
cans?
can of worms.
And if I could, so that we've been given a task by the town council.
Mhm.
And while amending the comprehensive plan may make sense to
Mhm.
address this problem, and maybe we say, we're going to address RV1 and RV2 by amending the comprehensive plan after we've provided you with this zoning ordinance, which means then we'd have to we'll have to keep making amendments.
Wow.
We can absolutely do it that way, and that may be something that comes up. It's just this question of, to your point, what's the efficient use of time is, do we want to say we're going to address RV1 and RV2 by putting them back together and amending the comprehensive plan? Or do we want to address them by coming up with clear guidelines for the difference?
Okay, yes,
I
Commissioner
mean,
Weaver.
it seems to me, especially because time is of the essence with us like getting this done. If we say our recommendation is that this is just what my thought is. Our recommendation is that we bring RV1 and RV2 together. And while we are going through the land use, we just make RV1 and RV2 the same for now, so that then when you later bring it up, it would be later than if we were changing the comprehensive plan. It was already set up versus us going through lots of discussion in any given thing and being like, oh, that can be an RV1 and this is an RV2 thing, and that's an RV1 and that's an RV2. We would just treat them
It'd be
the
easier.
same for us for now, with the recommendation that they are combined later.
But isn't that spot zoning? And what would that do to you with them coming to you with permits?
So I would say that if we are going to put them back together, we need to leave them alone right now, because
I think what she's saying is we leave them
We
alone.
leave them alone, but as
Leave
we
them alone.
discuss them,
Yeah.
give them the
In the
same.
columns here, one and RV2 are identical,
Treatment.
yeah, but
more or less.
that will make it inconsistent with what we, so in the
Oh, because
comprehensive
the
plan,
Comprehensive plan says one thing has to be different from the other, so now.
right, so in the comprehensive plan, residential village, it is meant to be conserve traditional cottage neighborhood character, and the only example, or the primary example, is single family detached homes. So if we then allow other housing types and commercial uses, we have brought ourselves out of consistency. So it is actually, if we are going the route of amending the comprehensive plan, it's a 3-step process. Make these changes now, leave everything as is, amend the comprehensive plan, come back and make changes again after the comprehensive plan is amended.
That's pretty complicated.
And our goal is to have something back to town council by April 1st?
I would say we would vote on it have a public hearing and voting on it in our April meeting.
In the April meeting.
Is that 6 months? Now, we could ask them for an
That's
extra
2
month.
months, right?
No, we would have March or February, because this isn't our February meeting. This is our January meeting. So we'd have a February and a March meeting. Yeah.
They requested it in November. We had some discussions in December. Right.
Maybe we could ask our, what do you think about this? What do you think would be the easiest way to go on this? I mean, you probably have seen this. How,
Counselor.
yes. What do you think would be the best way to go?
Well, my answer to that would be, it is really your call.
The comprehensive
I-
plan
I would
was produced years ago, a couple years ago, with other people. I mean, a few of us left, but most, the entire town council, and most of this commission has changed. It's not locked in stone. We don't have to comply with it. That was a guideline for the future. And when you have new people with new ideas, better ideas, you don't have to go back and change the comprehensive plan.
So
You
I was just
execute
thinking-
those new ideas, and then when the new comprehensive plan comes into being in 2030, then you write a comprehensive plan that acknowledges that.
That's why I was asking counselor here. What do you think is
Yeah,
the best way?
I'd like to
to
hear what you have to say.
So if you look at state law, it's going to tell you that when you adopt zoning regulations, they're supposed to be in accordance with the plan. So the plan is important. There were some recent changes in zoning from the General Assembly, and there are some currently posed, which if adopted, I think is going to require a possible amendment to your comprehensive plan.
So we're there anyway, is what,
So I'm going to defer to your planner, but, and it depends on what the General Assembly does, whether these things are enacted. But with respect to the comprehensive plan, when was the last one approved?
It is
2020.
2022.
2022,
Okay, so it's
April.
been
Sorry,
almost 4 years.
yes.
How long did it take to do that one?
I believe the comprehensive plan says that we will not have cannabis within the town. So now do we have to go back and change the comprehensive plan so that we can change? That's what I'm saying. I think it's a guideline that changes over time.
Oh,
So, sorry,
Go ahead.
the cannabis is a state preemption of local land use authority, so it invalidates what's in our comprehensive plan. But we still have to have our zoning be consistent with the comprehensive plan, though if state law has invalidated a portion of that, then our zoning has to be consistent with state law.
And we don't have to change the comprehensive plan.
And we don't have to change the
Right.
comprehensive plan, but we don't have state law talking to us about RV1 and RV2.
so if we kept RV1 and RV2 as it is right now and try and work with this, these uses as it looks right now, would that be something that would be what the town council would be looking for? Is that we use the current, or, I mean, did they want us to change the map, or did they say anything about changing the map?
They did not. However, as I've delved into the land use, it's very clear that the map really has to be looked at. And so,
I mean, the problem is,
It doesn't need to be looked at right now.
I mean, we need to, that's the problem is, do you have to do that first before we do the uses, or how are we going to be doing this? You want to do the uses with the current configuration of the map is my question.
I get what she was saying earlier, though. It's sometimes hard to say if what use we want for one place. If you're thinking, well, we might need to shift that. If we're like, because RV1 and RV2 are not currently, don't have any consistent standard that seems to divide RV1 from RV2, then it's hard to say what thing could go in one place or the other. Because you're like, well, if it's high density, or do you know what I mean? If it's where, because the roads are narrow, that we don't want things, or there's not parking, but that hasn't been consistent in doing it. So that's what I think she's presenting as being the issue.
You want it to be enumerated so that we have standards, objective standards.
yes.
And because they are currently
Easy.
easy, because like the RV2 that's right below the RV1 in the northeast corner of town, that doesn't bear very much resemblance to the RV2 that's over on Cox Road. I mean,
Cox Road is a little different because it's aspirational rather than existing.
But what's aspirational?
Cox Road's RV2
Oh.
is that the intention is that that area will change over time to mimic the land use pattern that you see in your RV2 zones
Right.
that exist.
Okay, all right, so let me ask you, Ms. Franklin, where do you want us to go next? Do you want us to go ahead and allow you to make changes on this map while we, should we avoid RV1 and RV2 right now as far as making the uses for, and try all the others? Or what do you recommend here? Because it's a chicken and egg thing. I mean, do we do this first or that first? I mean, I'm totally baffled on how to proceed here. I see the benefit of making it all one zone. But, it would take a lot of work to do that. So, do we want to do that?
does it make sense? I don't know. This seems to make, if we start going through and looking at the specifics and we know, and then that is when we would start to know like, oh, shoot, that doesn't really make sense as an RV1 because we would want that there. And then that could make zoning. That's when then we would know how we wanted to shift the map. But I think if we start with the land use table.
Right. I think so. You're asking for my recommendation, right?
I am
As to
doing
whether
that.
you
I'm
should-
exactly doing
whether you should update the comprehensive plan or whether you should amend the zoning. Right?
Yes. since we don't have the exact answer ourselves,
We are asking you to answer which
we are
came first.
asking for help here. And I
Um,
appreciate everybody else's 2 cents about it. I think it's going to take us a while to change that comprehensive plan. It's a problem.
Yes, but I think you can, the 3-step process is fine, right? You can take the 3-step process. I
Okay.
can take you through the 3-step process.
Yeah.
I believe that unless you guys really have a sense of what differentiates RV1 from RV2 amongst yourselves here, then it would make sense to put them back together, provided there is not any intense resident feedback. It is my understanding that people were concerned about RV2 increasing density in their neighborhoods, but I don't have all of the residential feedback. So I think under that, I would amend the comprehensive plan.
Okay, so if you don't want us to then take a look at this map and go, okay, let's examine why RV1 was identified as RV1 and why, you don't want us to sit here and start identifying different, I mean, we
think
could
you
do
should-
that and we could, come up with some ideas. My personal idea is that the RV1 looks like it has less room for parking, more vehicles. It has less, room for people dropping off people. And so that would be my look at RV1 as it stands currently. I see RV2 as having more ability to egress, ingress. You've got, I think, more parking in front of each lot. There are more garages in RV2, more driveways in RV2. So, I mean, am I pulling that out of a hat? No, I'm pulling it out of actually my experience of being around those areas. But, the RV2 that is up there on the top right, where you've got the orange RV1 up at the north section, and then the RV2 down below, that looks pretty intense right there, that RV2 area right there. So I don't know why that is necessarily RV2, unless maybe it's, in fact, maybe what is that area right where the RV2 is? Commissioner Brown, where am I looking right here? What is in that particular?
That's the townhouse, Seagate,
Okay.
I think.
Oh,
yeah.
is Seagate right there?
Mhm.
Yeah, because
Seagate is
Oh.
north of
Okay.
Horizon. So-
Okay, so RV2, so that is why that became RV2, because it wasn't a single family, same situation. So I can see why now they've, why that came, but the RV1 at the top, at the very northern section, that must be very small lots, very intense area up there, I think. I haven't been through that.
But
So, I mean, I could probably go through and identify, and we all probably could if, we all thought about what those little streets are all like.
And so maybe just for
Where's the
tonight,
horizon?
because we have a couple other things we want to discuss and we have the attorney here with us,
Yes.
that it might be a good idea to say, okay, we're all going to go back, right? And think about what makes the most sense so that when we come to our meeting at the end of February, you can vote to decide whether you want to create those objective distinguishers between RV1 and RV2, or whether you want to amend the comprehensive plan. Because I do think it really should be your decision. You sort of pushed me to a recommendation that I've thrown out, but I don't know that I would.
I mean, the other
Continue.
thing we have to remember is that the person who really, really, really wanted to make these changes is now sitting on the town council. So, I mean, could it possibly be that whatever we decide here about changing could go back and revert back
Well,
again? So, I mean, there's that.
We're also dealing with 3 things, separate things that have to be approved by the town council. Change to the comprehensive plan,
Mhm.
a change to this,
Mhm.
a change to that.
Mhm.
Got 3 independent things. This doesn't depend on that. We can work on this and get this done and then deal with the
What
the
I'm
map
thinking we should
later
be doing.
and the comprehensive plan later. But
Yeah.
this is what the town council wants from us in
Yeah.
April.
And
They haven't asked for this, and they haven't asked for a change to the comprehensive plan. So I say we work on this,
That's what I think.
and then.
Get done what we need to
Yeah.
get done. Exactly. That's what I think
one at a
too.
time.
And so I think then in that case with the land use, we still need a set of objective standards that allow us to decide what is in RV1 and what is in RV2.
But isn't that already in the comprehensive plan on page 59 and it gives a primary example?
Right, but that's not what's in the zoning anymore, right? The zoning has been changed to allow more intense use in a specific area of RV1, and we're being asked, we had a public come here and ask us to allow more uses in the RV1, specifically in that one building, and that specific individual was asking us for her own specific business. So I think we have to address the issue, either address the issue of horizons and whether there's a different way to handle it than it's been handled and make adjustments, or we have to determine what uses we're going to allow in each zone and what our decision factor is for that. I do know that residents were sort of assured that they would still be able to do things like their home-based businesses in the RV zones, and they can't. So that needs to be addressed, and these other uses need to be addressed. So regardless of how we move forward, we need to distinguish how we're deciding.
We can at least give all the RV area
Mhm.
at least one type of home-based business, right? We can do it due to the minor. It's the major one that I think you were implying to go into the RV, into the more, okay.
Right.
So I guess I want to ask Ms. Ruff, now, if we had this one building that is a multifamily housing unit and it's it's located currently in the RV one, and that's supposed to be our less intense area with single family housing, but somehow it got put into the RV1 zone. And I think that's about the only anomaly we have, isn't it? Because I don't remember there being another anomaly like that one.
In the RVs now.
Yeah, in the RVs. How would we address that situation?
Would
Lots only.
change the map to, I mean, that's what I would do, is I would change
would-
the map to reflect it if you're not going to alter the land uses that are permitted in the zone.
Okay. So basically change the map. So we can change a portion of the map if we want to.
Mhm.
When, you want to bring it back next month, we could do that. And still, and just do the horizon on the bay, just do that section to reflect RV2, I guess, make it an RV2 area.
And then would you permit all the uses that are in horizons in other areas of the RV2?
I mean, I guess we would.
Or would you
probably- do
grandfather?
Okay, do you have to, okay, so you would have to, once it's in that zone, you have to allow everybody in that zone to have the same uses, of course.
So what I understand is being said, and I might not have it right, and I would ask Ms. Franklin. So in the RV1 is where this multifamily is located,
With businesses, yes.
but it's not permitted in the land use table.
Not anymore, since we
Okay.
updated it.
So then you either have to amend the land, if it's not going to be non-conforming, right? You have to amend the land use table to allow that use in the zone, or you have to amend the zoning map to reflect the proper land use for that.
Okay, so if we modified the map to allow Horizons to be an RV2,
Mhm.
and we allow RV2 to have the major home business section, then that would be, those businesses in there are all compatible with the the major home business, right? Am I, no?
No, because they're not home-based businesses. They're actual commercial space.
Oh, that's true. They are
inside.
actual commercial. They are not,
They're-
yeah, you're right.
I
they
mean,
are
when they
commercial.
built that building, it was the intention of mixed use, which is why it was
Yep.
designed that way.
Yep.
I mean, I've gone to the businesses in there over
Yep,
my history of here.
yep.
And
Or is there overlay over that?
there isn't an overlay. There used to be an overlay, I think, that permitted it. Am I right? The density bonus overlay? Is that how it was
I
allowed?
don't recall. I thought it was when they were building that building that it was part of the approval process that they could do mixed use in there. But you would have to verify that.
I know they're allowed to do the mixed use in there. The problem is, the original uses, like a physical therapy office. I can't remember the others, but the physical therapist is moving out. And so other people want to purchase the space and they're not a physical therapist. And so physical therapist is the use that's allowed. And so people want their uses to be allowed too. And so how, we're amending the land use table to allow every different use somebody wants in there to be in there. I think that there's a way to do non-conforming or grandfathering that would be simpler.
Didn't we recommend to the town council that they could have this basement?
It was a yoga. She was.
No,
going
she wanted to do
Pilates.
Pilates, so that was
Pilates.
an exercise. Yeah, right.
We have to update the land use table in order, we have to
But I mean,
amend the
that
land
could
use
be
table.
allowed in the RV too, right? No?
That's where we're at. We're at this,
I'm
we're at
just
this,
saying,
what
if we
is,
would
what is
allow,
the difference between RV1 and RV2 and what is the objective decision factors for what uses we will allow? in the-
okay, so I
Sorry.
think we need
I
to go
think
to
the
the table. I'm sorry, yeah.
attorney
yes,
has a-
yes,
Just gonna say,
no.
might I
Yes.
suggest that we turn to the table of
Yes.
uses and focus on the RV1 and RV2 and confirm that you want to continue to have the uses here permitted or not permitted. Once you know that, then maybe that will help you decide whether you're going to keep them as two separate zones or whether you want to.
Well, the first issue we've got is the different types of residential uses. And when you look at the RV1, we have the attached, the single family attached and the townhouse dwelling not permitted, multifamily dwelling not permitted. I think that's what a lot of the RV1 people felt, that they were going to be single family detached only. And then the RV2 people, I think, felt that, there was mixed use. There was already mixed use in there. I think they already, were used to having a mixed type of housing situation in the RV2. And I think that might have been how this thing was divided up, was on the types of housing maybe. Because it is consistent that the RV ones that they have here are just single, up here on the map, are single family detached homes. They're not townhomes or attached homes or any of that stuff. But in all these other areas, where in the RV1, where is that? You mean the RV1 area? Where's that at?
South of Horizons. There's
That's not in the residential high density. It hasn't moved into that.
So residential high density change, the red is covering up RV1. So
Okay.
where the,
It's right below the RV1. It's where the red is.
yeah,
Yeah,
you might
that's-
want to, if you have your actual zoning map instead of the two
Yeah.
overlaid, you might want to look at that.
Okay.
Um,
But I think the type of housing is what created this RV1/RV2 difference, is really that plus the density and all the, the parking, et cetera. So I think there was a method to this madness. But anyway, I think if we start looking at the first page, we've already got an issue with, well, okay, do we change up what's permitted in the RV1 and it'll start allowing townhouse dwellings and multifamily? I mean, do we change that all up? I mean, that would certainly make everybody happy in the current RV1. What? There's going to be townhomes here? So, I mean, so that's a big issue. But if you look at the current the current situation. You've got RV1 and it's totally just detached housing, whereas RV2 is all these other types of housing. So is that how I think that's how the map is situated, isn't it? I mean, if you look at it, I think that's what's going on here. Because I don't think that there are any RV1s that have townhomes or multifamily housing in the area, except for, maybe
Or-
the Horizon issue. Of course, we got that anomaly, but I think everything else is pretty consistent with RV2 is, got the different types of housing, and the RV1 is all single family detached.
Aren't there townhomes south of Horizons?
Say that again?
Aren't there townhomes south of Horizons?
Yes.
They're in an RV.
Yes, there is a little section of townhomes right behind right
Mhm.
Right
behind Baya or
Yeah.
adjacent to Baya. Is that
That's zoned
Between-
RV1.
Between Baya and Horizon.
Baya and Horizon? Seagate?
No, that's-
Talking about Seagate.
Townhomes on the water, single family homes on Route 260.
Yeah, but that's all zoned RV1 now. So it's not that it was split up entirely by what's there, unless that RV1 should have been RV2.
Well, anyway, so, yeah.
I think that the bigger issue that aside from the residential is actually the commercial uses that are permitted.
Right, right. If we went back now and went to these RV1 homeowners and they go, guess what? We're going to change you to RV, and it looks like you're going to now have townhomes, multifamily home dwellings, single family attached, coming into your possibly coming into your neighborhood. I think we're going to have some issues. I think they're probably thinking at this point that they're in a stable situation of just having the detached homes.
Otherwise, you start becoming like Waldorf.
Ooh,
So that's
Put it everywhere.
I think you guys are making that decision, right? And I'm not suggesting that you allow all these higher density uses in the RV1. So it sounds like what you're saying is we should keep two categories for the residential at least.
I think that's
So-
how it was designed with the change. I think that's what I can't remember, but I think that's probably what it was.
Right.
Now, we may have
And-
some anomalies, as I say, we might have that section of townhomes on the water that should be in high-density housing or something, or RV2, I don't know, probably high-density housing. So we probably need to make some adjustments, but I don't know that we should change RV1 to become just like RV2, because I think people have already become accustomed to understanding that RV1 has different different types of housing, and I don't think they're thinking it's going to be high density housing. So I don't know if I want to, be on the chair. I don't want to be on the planning commission when that changes. I don't think they would be happy. So anyway, my thing would be that we make some minor adjustments to the map. Maybe put those townhomes and high density housing. Maybe take Horizon and put that on RV2 or something.
And wait for the town council to approve it, and then we come back and do.
No, I think in the meantime, we've got to work on this at the
That's
same
what I
time.
think.
We got to do both.
On this.
This is what they need. And I think it comes to with the commercial uses, which ones are you going to? So you're going to keep them separate. You're going to move Horizons into the RV2 to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And
right.
then which commercial uses are you going to allow in the RV2? And how
Oh,
are you going to
Okay, let me go back to Ms. Ruff. So if we have specified uses, and then all of a sudden you've got this Horizons, which is a standalone multi-use facility. It's got the commercial on the bottom, and it's got the, the multi-family housing on the top. Can you adjust the use because it's standalone and it's not, or do you have to make sure that all the uses conform with what it says in here? So in other words, can they have a more intense use with that building?
If it existed and was allowed to be developed prior to the zoning being enacted or amended such that it was no longer permitted, it should be a non-conforming use. Is it a non-conforming use?
Not being treated like a non-conforming use. Well, okay. Because it's not just that. It's that when you go from physical therapy to I want other, to now I want to have a Pilates
or whatever it
studio.
was, yeah.
But adjusting this land use table into the categories as I have may fix that because now physical therapy is in the same category as a Pilates studio.
Right.
So you
Right.
expand the uses.
Because it's a personal service?
Yes.
Yes,
It's then a conditional use,
right.
opposed to be a conditional use.
That's right. That's
Right.
right. That's right. So
Yeah.
maybe that's how we approach this. Okay, does everybody kind of go along with that idea? Just make a few little minor changes, not make a tremendous change in the RV system, because I think it's going to be a really hard road to
No.
hoe to try and have it go up to the town council and make a change, because I'm not sure that's the way they want to go. I would just stick with this, make a few tweaks, and try and develop this as best we can with the current RV1, current RV2 situation. See if we can get there. See if we can go.
Okay.
Okay, just because I think as, you know, the logistics of this is going to be challenging otherwise. And
So-
we would have really a lot of angry people if we changed RV1 to RV2 all of a sudden, I think.
I agree.
Okay, so let's look at the first, should we start on the first page? Is that how we want to do this, or how do you want to, I'm sorry, go.
All right, if I can just make sure that my direction is clear. I'm going to be moving Horizons and any townhomes into the RV2 district with a map amendment. And we're going to update this land use table so that once it's updated, personal services are going to be permitted in because they're on our existing non-conforming use in Horizons. And that's how we're going to address. There's not actually going to be any commercial uses in RV1 and RV2 except for home occupations. Is that?
That would sound good to me. What does everybody else think? Is that
I
okay?
just want to make sure I understood that. You just said that in RV1 and RV2, there would be no commercial businesses,
Only home occupations.
only home occupation. So what happens to the businesses that are currently in Horizons on the Bay?
So because the land use table is changing and personal services all in one zone, then you can have any personal service use in Horizons. I'm not sure because it looks like Attorney Ruff maybe has something to say about that. So
If personal services and neighborhood retail are conditional uses in the RV1, what would stop them from being located elsewhere in the RV1? The conditions that
Oh.
apply to those uses?
the condition of the uses in the RV1 was specifically that it is part of a mixed use development that was approved before a certain
Okay.
date. And so we can go, that's not how it's written now. That's not how I drafted it. But given this is what I'm trying to confirm, that what I'm going back to do is to redraft that condition back into it for just the RV2 zone, which will be updated with the map to include Horizons and solve our intensity issue.
So my thought, and this is where I'm coming from, of the business for that building. Right now, say they have all the lower floor rented out.
Mhm.
And then somebody moves out and now they don't have that rent coming in. And someone else wants to come in and potentially it's not personal use. Then it's denied and they're on the hook because now they don't have someone coming in for personal use and they're not recouping money for that part of the building. Does that make sense?
Are those condos? I thought she purchased that from the physical therapy. Didn't she purchase? Aren't those for sale and purchase? I don't think they're rental situations.
I
Yeah,
think
she bought
each
it.
unit is different. I
Oh,
am
is that
pretty
right?
sure. I don't want to specifically say because I'm not 100% certain, but I think some of them are rented and that one is definitely purchasable because she was purchasing it.
Okay, so going back to this then, if right now, we don't know what all the uses are in there. We know that they're conforming, don't we? I mean, we know that there's a Pilates And,
No,
Is-
it's not
wait,
Pilates.
There was a physical therapist,
right,
which counted as a personal service, but Pilates would be,
So in your existing land use table, right,
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
have
yeah,
a
yeah.
physical therapist, you can have like a
oh, that's right,
doctor's
Mhm.
office.
that's right. Mhm,
But there's not a lot of, you can't have everything. And so
mhm.
what we do when we add well, I think you could have a personal service now, but that personal service doesn't include fitness studios.
But we
you're-
could
the-
add that, right?
Right, so the new version that you've received today includes fitness studios as a personal service.
Yes, it does.
They already have a fitness gym in there.
Mhm. Yeah,
Well, it's not.
Part,
Not
it's,
kosher.
it's
but it's not,
part,
the gym isn't the business, right? It's a
It's
part of
not,
being an
it's-
amenity
Oh,
of
then
the
that-
building.
yeah,
That's a
that's
different
different.
thing then.
Yeah, that's different.
let's go over the first page of the land use chart here, and let's just take a look at it. If we look at residential uses, right now it sort of conforms with our map in the sense that, you know, the RV1 has pretty much just detached single-family housing. Of course, when you get down to the multifamily dwelling, et cetera, they're going to be NP, not permitted. And then the RV2, everything's permitted, I guess, is what you would say. Now, the dwelling unit in combination with commercial use, that gets a little more intense. And that, of course, I mean, is it something that, it's not currently in the RB2 right now? Do we have commercial in the RB2 right now? Dwelling units with commercial in it? I don't.
Yeah, your RV2 allows them conditionally now.
Okay, so that's consistent then, right?
Yes.
And the RPC, let's talk about the RPC. Yes, sir?
Dwelling accessory,
Mhm.
you're talking about accessory dwelling units?
Yes.
ADU. Mhm.
Yes.
That's going to be something that we're going to allow, I think, in all zones, correct? That's one of the changes that the state of Maryland's going through.
That's conditional on RV1.
So per the state code, right, changes, any zone where you allow single-family housing, you have to allow accessory dwelling units. There were some new changes that occurred that require us to evaluate our regulations around ADUs, frankly, around ADUs, cannabis, and solar. And so I would like to kind of put a pin in those uses and tackle them all together because we have state preemption at play. And that's how we really need to look at them is what are we required to do?
Okay,
The
so,
accessory dwelling, well, further on when we get into this, accessory dwelling unit is limited to 600
Mhm.
square feet or something. But in the state law, it says 75% of the main house.
It says a maximum of. So it doesn't, we don't have to allow 75%, but we can allow up to 75%. We can't allow 80% of the size of the main house. So I think as the conditions for accessory dwelling units are something that we do need to talk about, but they're like sort of a bigger discussion. And I think if we can, while we have the attorney here, talk about the overlay if we're ready. I don't,
okay, all right.
if we're
let's-
ready to move
but-
from RV1 to RV2. Not that we don't need to talk about the accessory dwelling units, but I want to make sure that we're
Okay,
tackling our question or our main questions. Yes.
Can you just do me a favor? Somebody mentioned RPC. Can you refresh my memory on the difference between RPC and RC?
So the RPC is the residential planned community, and the residential planned community is a floating zone in your zoning ordinance, which means it sort of hovers up here in the air and it doesn't land anywhere unless it gets applied to the map. So that means that you have a base zoning map and you can have any area in your base zoning map and you can drop the floating overlay on top of your base zoning map. I have gone back historically because Richfield Station and Bayview Hills, no, Bayview Hills and the Heritage all have the RPC overlay dropped on them, but there's no indication what the zoning that they're on, that the overlay is on top of is. And so we need to address the underlying zoning, but also the RPC, its point is to be a planned residential community. So a planned residential community in the future, if someone's going to have that overlay applied, they might want to have a neighborhood grocery store in it or some other type of thing, but you could only have those things. Once you drop in the overlay, you get your development plan, you approve the development plan with the overlay, and now that is the regulations for that area. So Richfield Station wouldn't be allowed to have a neighborhood grocery store because it's not in the plan for Richfield Station. But if someone else came in and said, you know, we annexed some land that wasn't developed and someone wanted to put a neighborhood in there, and they wanted to have a grocery store, or a daycare center, or a school, or whatever they wanted to do, then that needs to be permitted in the overlay zone when we apply it so that they can use those things. That overlay zone is it's meant to live on top all the time so that the development plan is what's being followed, but you're also supposed to have underlying zoning.
So that is why you have with RPC, you've got permitted uses all the way through that include stores, and you include a lot more with the RPC.
Because a new RPC might want those
Okay,
things.
Because
okay.
previously, Richfield Station was an RPC.
Yes, but I don't know what it was originally. So we'll want to provide it with underlying zoning. I think we should do that for the homeowners to make it clear what their setbacks and lot coverage and everything is.
So even though Heritage is an RPC, it's listed as RMD here.
No, it's so currently it's all Heritage and Bayview Hills only, because remember, you're looking at two maps on top of each
I
other
see,
right now,
I
the old and the
I
new.
see, I see,
So
I see.
Yeah,
Okay,
it used to be RMD that
okay.
was underlying it, but still, that means a homeowner's setbacks for like their shed
Okay,
are going to be RMD setbacks.
Okay.
But
interesting.
redevelopment is going to be the,
RPC.
right.
Well, I don't want to get into it now, but that was a big issue when we were going through it, that we didn't want Richfield Station changed to RPC.
Okay,
It's always been RPC though.
I thought it was,
did you,
I thought it was something else, but maybe I'll go back in my notes.
did you want Ms. Ruff to talk about the overlay zone then, or what did you want her to?
I mean, I guess if you have questions or if you want to say things about legalities.
I mean, this is complicated.
It is.
Well, I guess I would say I'm not sure I can add much to what you've said, because an overlay zone is placed on the zoning map over your traditional zoning. Right? It allows you, it's a planning tool that you can use that adds targeted rules, I would say, on top of your existing zoning regulations. It's supposed to address specific conditions or goals within that area. So rather than replacing that base zoning that you have on your map, overlays help you protect sensitive areas, critical area overlay, guide growth near transit. You'll have heard of transit district overlays, or address downtown issues, or respond to any kind of a unique local issue or context without having to rewrite your entire code, right? So that's what that little overlay zone does. And it allows flexibility at some level and precision on the other hand, because you're going to target a certain area, right? Let's see.
So you're saying so the Heritage is, the RMD was the original, but there's an overlay on top of it. That's the RPC.
Right. So if I got an application for a shed from the Heritage, even though it's not on our map, I could say, okay, I'm going to use RMD's regulation. Now, fortunately, your dimensional regulations are pretty consistent throughout, so I'm able to just apply them when someone in an RPC comes in, but that's not technically the correct way. There should be an underlying zoning layer.
The RMD?
So
What's that?
it could be, it actually doesn't, on some level, right? It doesn't matter. This whole gray area could be zoned any underlying zone that's residential, and you won't be able to you still wouldn't be able to say, put houses in where we have RC, because the development plan doesn't show houses in that area. So there's no approval for houses in that area.
There's some confusion with the RC,
Mhm.
resource conservation, as far as development, because there are private properties in the RC that
Mhm.
have development on it.
So some of the RC properties are privately owned and some of them are part of the
FIDS.
right. But some of them, a lot of them are also dedicated open space. So
Mhm.
a lot of your RC districts are locally protected lands through,
Mhm. But if somebody had
HOAs.
a private lot on the RC,
Mhm.
they've had it for many, many years and they wanted to develop it, they could put a structure on that property.
if it was not within the RPC overlay. So if,
Right, if it's not in the RPC overlay, right.
Right.
If it's one in the, yeah, I'm just saying in the R. So even though we think the RC is totally protected, it's going to be forested forever, and there's still potential for development in certain properties, private properties of the RC.
no, well, yes and no. So a private property that is in the RC that does not have an RPC overlay on it and is not locally protected land could have in it, let's see, you can have water-oriented recreation, a private club, government facility, parks and playgrounds, environmental science centers, game and wildlife preserves, nature preserves,
potential
aquaculture,
for some
seafood
development.
processing. Right, you
Yeah,
have to
you-
you have to allow some uses on any property. So
Okay.
marine storage, utilities, there's a couple of uses that are allowed.
Can I?
If you don't provide a private use, then it's.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
So
That's
can you
right.
help me understand this? For Richfield Station, the FIDS, the 200-acre FIDS, is right now RC. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there an overlay of the RPC over the RC, or is it just straight RC?
The map shows it as just straight RC, right? But that's not sort of technically correct because there is an RPC overlay on top of it. So the map needs to be updated to show, so you could change the underlying zoning there to be RC. You don't need to because it can't, the RPC is on top of it. And it's not, the development plan does not have that being developed, but you can have it RC and the RPC can be on top of it, and it should be on top of it because the development plan, which includes the preservation of that land, should apply there.
Okay, so help me understand. It should apply, but there's competing factors of what you just said. It should apply, but it's not showing.
Mhm.
Part of my understanding of the FIDS is the agreement was the developer would turn over that 200 acres of the FIDS, which is now currently RC, because he was allowed to develop Stream Walkway. That has not been turned over yet. What is to stop him from future developing, because he's going to start developing in Richfield Station? So how do we, the town who also entered into this agreement, how do we make sure that he turns it over as part of the agreement?
So I can't speak to that, but what I can say is that the RPC overlay that he was granted was based on a development plan, and that development plan included the preservation of the FIDs. So you want that overlay showing on top because it's actually like you can put resource conservation underneath, but that overlay is defining that as being dedicated open space as part of his permission to have the overlay. It's actually another kind of layer of protecting on that map. Typically, overlays are shown kind of like by hatching on a map. So you have the underlying, and then the hatching indicates the overlay has been applied.
Okay, Ms. Franklin, do you have an understanding of what possibly you can do with this map by next month?
After she takes a week off.
Without changing, I mean, I think it would be to our betterment if we did not change too much of the RV1, or I think if we keep it mostly as is, but just change a few of the little, like the heritage and that kind of thing.
I think I can bring things to consistency and recommend underlying zoning, as I have not been able to find previous underlying zoning. There's no reason, I don't think there's a reason, the attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, that we can't just put our own underlying zoning, apply it now. But we do want that overlay showing on this map
Okay. All
because
right.
it forces you to look at the development plan.
So that next month we can knock this whole puppy out right here. Because I think once we actually see where everything goes, I think we can kind of then say, yeah, it should go there or not. You know, we can actually designate the uses more easily. Does anybody else want to say anything before we tidy up and kind of close off for tonight? Because I know we've got a time frame here we've got to end on. Anybody else have any questions or issues before we close it off? So the homework for next month was going to be really just trying to figure out how we want, what kind of uses we want and where we want them, and try and do it within pretty much what we've got right here, so we don't have to start from square one again. What else do we want to do for next month? This is going to be pretty much all we're going to do next month, right?
Yeah, I just want to reassure you all that I haven't forgotten about coastal resiliency.
No, I
Get it.
understand. We've got to
Um,
get to that too, but
But
we've got a time limit on this. We've got a time frame that we've got to
if
complete it.
what I did with this was I reorganized, I added definitions. Anywhere that I sort of had to, I combined uses, may have gone through that section and modernized the language and updated sort of what's in there. But anywhere I didn't have to make those changes, I might have left it how it is. So if you would like me to provide recommendations to changes to things that didn't need changing to provide you with this new organization, then I can do that for next time so that you have sort of a basis to talk about.
I just wonder if we want to look at B really quickly and ask you to put some of the prohibited uses into the chart as well. I mean, maybe we want to have you do that. So in other words, casino gambling,
Mhm.
wouldn't that be something that is going to go into our chart somewhere? Because we already have it, right? It's one of the uses we have.
It's explicitly not prohibited, or it's explicitly not permitted in any zone.
I know, but it's obvious that, that's something we've got to put into the permitted uses, correct? So I'm just saying there are some things in B, which is prohibited uses, that we need to go ahead and put into the uses, right?
We have to make it prohibited.
Sorry, I haven't been to any that have gambling in them. Are they slots only, or are they?
Yeah. Wouldn't you consider this the stuff that we have at Rod and Reel and Abner's? No?
I'm going to defer to the attorney. The slots and the
No?
casinos are different, aren't they?
Casino gambling, wouldn't that be what we have as slots at?
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I think though there's a legal definition that's different,
Well, is
right?
it
Because
gaming? You want
The
to call it
state
gaming?
allows slots where they don't allow. Yeah.
And see what that distinction is. Allows
Yeah.
just the slots at the restaurant versus.
Okay, all right, so casino, okay, I always go Oh, the casino. All right, so we need to check the definition, all right. And I guess there are some other things that, we might want to include on our, for example, tattoo parlors. Are we going to keep those? I don't know. I mean, but
You might want to change some of
we might
these.
want to change some of these things. And do we want to then move them over and then just change them at, when they're in the chart? Or how do you want to do that?
So I guess regardless of whether we change them or we don't change them, they all need definitions, which you'll notice that there's not definitions there.
Yes.
My intention was to create the definitions and then stick them into the definitions section rather than have them here cluttering things up.
So
but
you don't want them in the land use chart?
if they're prohibited, I don't
Well,
we're
but
just
I-
making the table longer by having a table that says
Massage
Not
parlor, are we
permitted.
not going to allow like any therapeutic massage, or is that not the same as a massage parlor? I guess that's another definition.
and you'll see that these are your existing prohibited uses, but you'll notice that in professional services, that massage is something I'm recommending
Right.
you allow. So
Okay.
I do need to work on these definitions. So I will
Okay.
provide you with definitions. And then
Okay.
maybe it's a discussion of whether you want to permit some things that you didn't in the past, whether there's additional things that you want to prohibit. I did already move cannabis because it's state, so we have to address it.
Okay, right, okay. Okay, fine. So you've already done a lot of the definitions. You just have some more to do, I guess.
I just did the permitted uses, not the prohibited use.
Right, right. And I guess our job really is just to determine what we want to put in, what we currently have as RV1/R and then RV2 separately. Okay, thank you, Ms. Ruff, for coming in and helping us get through some of this craziness that we're doing tonight. Is there anything else you need to think about,
So I don't know if the attorney has anything else that she would like to
Anything else you
add
wanna-
or.
say?
No, is there anything else you would like me to address though while I'm here?
Yes, I know.
Let
So
me
many
just
times we
check what
wish you were
if there's
here.
anything
I
is-
communicated prior and
Yeah.
there were 4 items that were brought to my attention. I think we
Did I miss
touched on
one?
all
I think
of
we
them.
touched on all of
Yeah,
them.
we did.
Yeah.
The overlay zone, the RVRT, spot zoning.
And the
We
RPC.
did actually, I think, pretty much go over everything that we needed with you, but thank you very much for your attendance here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, quickly, is there anything that anybody would like to add tonight? Do you have anything you want to say as council comment?
I was not here for the wonderful snowstorm that we had, but I really want to thank the town employees for their dedication on clearing the roads.
Yes.
I know there was some grumbling because of, especially in Richfield Station, when they were, when they were clearing some of the roads, it blocked in at the townhouses, the people, and they had to shovel it out. But I mean, for what we received and what they
They've been
did,
through.
I commend them.
Yeah, I think they did a great job. Commissioner Greisman, and okay, I need a motion to adjourn. Who would like to?
She's like, oh,
Everybody's so eager.
That's
Do I have a
my favorite.
second?
Second that one.
We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. And the meeting is closed. Thank you. Appreciate it. This has been a challenge tonight. They're all a challenge.
It's technically, yeah. Like,
Who creates
no, you have to be licensed for it. Okay, well, you have to license.
So, yeah.